Hey y'all, Boogie Knight here. How's it going? And I know this is a different setup. I'm not on my couch. I'm not wearing my traditional trilby. I'm wearing a headset instead. And that is for a good reason. Because the most recent movie that I saw, I actually watched it with an amazing person, the ample wealth of knowledge on horror genre in general, movies, video games, that kind of thing. So I really wanted to rope her in for this particular review because it was one of the first ones we ever saw. Hailing from the dirty south, Rokkit88. Can you hear me okay, Rocket?
I can hear you fine. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. This is Rokkit88.
Blasting off again. But
That is
anyways,
not my intro.
it's gonna be a new thing when it becomes a Rokkit Knight production.
Maybe.
Possibly.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, well, no, more of our Rokkit Knight conversations off camera. But
Okay.
anyway, so Rock and I have seen a plethora of movies so far during the course of just, getting to know each other and hanging out as content creators. But the movie we most recently watched, Sleepaway Camp, was really good because, in my personal opinion, I think it definitely was a stripped down, good old-fashioned horror movie romp that, personally to me, and Rocket, you can correct me if I'm wrong, differs from a lot of more modern-day horror.
Oh, no, I totally agree.
I mean, I love this movie because, as we've talked about numerous times, including a couple of incidents when the camera wasn't recording properly, go OBS, I hate you.
Yeah.
It hails back to a different kind of horror genre because it's stripped down. It's not focused on the special effects or the makeup or anything like that. It's raw atmosphere. I mean, what did you think of it?
Let's see. This was one of the first horror movies to scare me as an adult. So I have to give it props for that. It could be because it did. But I would say that the atmosphere is really good. And one of the things that I loved the most about it was that it was very much rooted in the quintessential horror movie, by that being that it had a twist ending.
Yeah, that definitely solidified it for me as well. I mean, and mind you, I saw it back when I was a kid, but seeing it years later, I mean, being able to more fully appreciate horror as opposed to just this dumb kid being like, why that person getting stabbed? Well, Timmy, it's like quite simple. I mean, I did not. So sorry, Silverleaf. I threw in the Timmy conversation. But yeah, I mean, now that I'm getting older, and I think you and I can appreciate, not trying to sound like a really cranky old man, appreciate the way horror movies used to be.
Oh God. Well, yeah. Now we sound like bitter hipster bitches. But we're 80s babies. That's the one thing about being an 80s baby, is that you're kind of like, you don't have a choice but to be a hipster.
I mean,
but
go on, sorry.
No, you first.
Okay, I was just gonna say, particularly when it comes to, I think also in the 80s, the horror movie genre was just kind of blooming a little bit.
Yes. Much like the music video.
Oh, God.
I'm just saying. It's true.
Now playing Dire Straits.
So, okay. So, I think like one of the things that really stands out about this movie, aside from the fact that it does kind of like harken back to the twist, and I say harken back very loosely because, again, this did come out in the 80s, is that it is very 80s. That stands out a lot. You see like the cut-off shorts and the really bad hair, and bad acting. Yeah, exactly. She was like, "Excuse me while I make room for my mullet." That's what it is. They cut off their shorts to make room for their fucking mullet.
No, seriously. I mean, that's kind of the way it really was, and we'll definitely talk about the 80s structure later on, but I definitely do want to talk a little bit about the twist, because this movie had probably one of the best, if not the best, twist in any horror movie, from my memory at least.
Oh, for sure. And let's see, I know that we talked about this in the previous take a little bit, but it seems like modern day horror movies, up to a particular point, all go and start pulling tricks out of the psycho hat, because everybody has DID, and that's why they're doing what they're doing, and that's what makes it so scary is, DID. And I mean, in Psycho, it worked.
It really did, because it was a new experience. It was bold. It was raw. And then
it hadn't been done.
Exactly. I mean, this was something that really shaped another facet of horror, much like how Sleepaway Camp kind of helped shape the slasher genre, along with Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it really did.
I mean, and all the Nightmare on Elm Street. I almost said Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, I mean, that was scary for different reasons.
I'm sorry, I'm just not a Tim Burton fan.
I know, but how can you hate The Nightmare Before Christmas?
That's a conversation we're going to have off camera.
Yeah, we're not reviewing that movie right now.
No.
So.
But, I mean, something that we also discussed about the DID and whatnot in our previous take. Once again, I apologize. Our previous take was off to a good start, but then I realized that OBS had not synced up properly, so Rockit's volume was not coming in. Hooray.
So, yay, silence the female.
Oh. That was a 60s trope, thank you very much. I've watched Mad Men. I've seen how that goes.
Yeah, it was.
John Hamm walks in and like something out of Sucker Punch. Which is another good movie, by the way.
I guess we'll have to add that to the list.
That list grows ever longer. Sorry, Koa. The Rokkit list is completely outranked any of our lists, but whatever.
I'm not kidding.
But no, but I mean, and once again, we discussed this as well, is that I feel like, Sleepaway Camp personified the twist ending so well, and then Shyamalan was able to fairly well mimic it in Sixth Sense, only to completely nerf it for his later movies. Hence the "what a twist!"
Yeah,
trope.
Hence that meme/trope. Which,
Robot Chicken.
Yeah, and I'm just like, in a way, I feel sorry for the guy because, like we had discussed previously, Sixth Sense was wonderful, but also like jumping the shark. He busted out with that one a bit too early, probably.
You feel like he kind of blew his trope load a little bit too fast.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you want to set up twists for your movie, that's fine. That's what R.L. Stine did in all the Goosebumps books, but those were for kids.
And Fear Street.
And Fear Street. Did you read it? Did you read Fear Street?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh my God, I've never met another person who's ever read it. Every time I say it, they're just like, what?
Come on, Fear Street and Christopher Pike novels were the jam.
They really were, but I'm only familiar with people who know Goosebumps, and I'm just like, yeah, but Fear Street was so much better.
Fear Street was the precursor to the Goosebumps books.
Yes, it was.
So
that's why the first Goosebumps book is the only one that's actually scary.
Oh, House of the Dead or whatever it's called?
Yes, Welcome to Dead House. That one was actually terrifying. Like, I read it and I was just like, this is for kids. No, thank you. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yeah, so we watched a movie.
We watched a movie.
It was a good
movie. And read some books.
But
it was a good movie.
I mean, but once again, going back to how 80s movies were so definitive because they were so blooming, but you had the slasher films like Hellraiser with the body horror, which weren't really twisty and turning, but at the same time were groundbreaking for this particular subgenre. But
oh yeah, stuff like that you didn't used to see in movies, like, period.
Oh, such sights.
I'm amazed, like, it wasn't banned. Oh, I heard it did not actually. No, it had been banned before.
Yeah, kind of like Cannibal Holocaust was.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole different review altogether. Ugh.
Oh, for sure.
But, I mean, what I appreciated the most about Sleepaway Camp is what viewers of the Sonic Boogie Project know that I've ranted and raved about for any of my horror movies that I've talked about, is the atmosphere and the character development, and how this movie was so stripped down, it brought to light a lot of childhood fears of going away to summer camp. Absolutely.
Although those are usually like bad fears, and I don't mean like the getting murdered bad fears.
Well, yeah, I mean, it harkens back to, the circle jerk around the campfire, as we talked about last take.
Right. Yes. One of the things that's really great, though, about the Sleepaway Camp movie is that there's never really a point in time where something doesn't feel off.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very uncomfortable.
That's a great word for it to describe
yeah,
it.
exactly. And it's not just when you get to a death scene.
Mm-hmm.
There's always kind of like this foreboding atmosphere. Like you're kind of you're trying to piece together, not only what is going on, but how are the characters, because some of the characters are not aware of what's going on.
Just blissfully
ignorant. And they're doing their own thing. And yeah, I kept making the joke like, yeah, you're getting sued.
Morgan and Morgan for the people.
For the people.
Oh, God. But, yeah, I mean, but that's a great way because even in just the first 5 minutes of the movie, you're almost immediately just drawn into this feeling of discomfort.
Yeah. Which we can, let's see, we talked about it in the last take, but we can talk about the opening family because I've never seen a movie, especially an 80s movie, where the family dynamic consisted of 2 dads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and as we talked about previously, it was a kind of a sign of the times, which I really have to appreciate because it's almost like up until the 90s, there was more of a worldview sense, whereas in the 90s, all of a sudden, it was just, put a lid on it for the time being until modern times. So being able to slip this one past the goalie for an early 80s movie was definitely well done and well orchestrated.
Well played, good sir. Well played.
I tip my hat.
Indeed.
And yes, I do have my hat. It's just not on my head because I look like a moron. I looked like Johnny Depp.
The thumbnail should be that picture.
Oh, no. I looked like Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. I was 2 steps away from doing the futter whacking, all right?
Yeah, for sure.
0 futter whacking, 0 stars.
And I'm going to be kind and not talk about my host that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, indeed.
I'm sure you'll rip the hell out of me off camera.
Off camera, I'll say whatever the hell I want to. But on camera, I would hope to be invited back one day. So
yeah, when we review Jaws 3D.
Oh, snaps. That's when you thought it was safe to go back to 3D land.
Oh, God. Jaws the Revenge.
Here comes this piece of shit.
No, that's the Green Inferno.
So we watched a different movie.
So we watched an actual good movie. But
it was good. I would say my one, and it's not really a complaint as much as it is a nitpick. If I had to say anything about it, I would say that in a lot of ways, it did not age well. Yeah. Like you can't really look at this and pinpoint it for any other decade except maybe the preceding one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that was kind of a bitter pill to swallow because you have movies like the John Carpenter's The Thing, not the prequel, The Thing, but the 80s version of The Thing with Kurt Russell in it, or
the prequel can suck it.
Oh, God.
They didn't even change the title. How lazy can you possibly be?
I mean, that's what bothered me the most about the remake to Suspiria, was if it had any other title other than Suspiria, I wouldn't have so much vitriol as I did today.
Right.
I mean, even if it was just like Suspiria 2, The Revenge, or Il Suspiriorum, I would have been cool with it. But the fact that it carries that gravity.
Yeah. With a movie that you really have a lot of respect for.
Exactly. That's kind of what pissed me off, but whatever. But I mean,
So I felt about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Say again?
That's how I felt about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. But I mean, even for a movie that didn't age well, you had these things in the movie, like the character interaction and that genuine fright and feeling of, like, I'm alone and anybody could just get attacked and killed. I mean, just randomly. I mean, and that fact, that kind of was the case in point in a lot of scenes, was that these were just random occurrences.
That actually sounds a little bit more like The Thing. So in Sleepaway Camp, they're not as random. There is actually a pattern to it. It's not that hard to pick up on the pattern right out the gate, but it still makes it hard to pinpoint who the killer is.
Yeah, that's a better explanation for it. I mean, because I mean, a lot of the times you're trying to find, I guess, the ground zero of who the killer is, and as we said in previous take, it does kind of turn into Clue, like, who killed the person in the kitchen with the knife.
Yeah. Or the pot of boiling water.
Oh,
that was gross.
I loved that boiling water scene because it wasn't just like Psycho or Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or Halloween, or My Bloody Valentine. Like, that was visceral.
Oh yeah, no, they showed it and they held on it, and I mean, he got what he deserved.
Oh hell yeah, that guy was. I wanted to see more damage done to him.
Oh, I mean, rest assured, he's going to spend the rest of his life screaming. So,
good for him.
there is that little comfort.
Poetic justice.
But it does kind of call back to, there doesn't ever really seem to be a comfortable moment in this movie. Because, like, the first thing that happens when they get to camp is attempted pedophilia.
Yeah. And once again, that goes back. Really? And once again, that goes back to, I mean, not me personally, but that stereotypical childhood fear of camp.
Yeah.
Because for all intents and purposes, they are on their own. And she is getting the brunt of everything right out of the get-go.
Absolutely.
I mean,
so,
go ahead. No, I was just, I mean, you really do feel for her because, I mean, essentially, she really is the butt monkey of the movie because everyone's making fun of her because she is silent. Because
she is different. So, which was part of what I was kind of coming around to, is that the pattern is that anyone who picks on Angela dies. But because Angela is the way that she is, there's really no reason to think that it's her, especially because she goes with her cousin to camp and he's a firecracker and a half.
And as you said in the previous take, I mean, these kids have mouths like loaded magazines.
Yes, God, they do. I'm just like, okay, I did not talk like that at 14.
Once again, New Jersey.
A different story. Yeah, which I'm pretty sure is where this was filmed and takes place, is New Jersey. I know the sequels take place in upstate New York. But...
yeah, dirty state, dirty mouths.
Indeed. You know what? I'm not going to talk about New Jersey. I'm going to let you do that because you live there. Yeah,
well, what can I say?
I've been there, so I have an opinion, but since I haven't lived there, I'm like, I'm not going to talk shit about a state I would rather not live in.
I mean, I had no qualms living at, southern Jersey. I mean, I lived in a decent part of town, but it was like always 5 minutes away from don't go to that side of the tracks, literally.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That I wholeheartedly believe.
I mean, it's kind of like, okay, well, we're going to go to the comic shop. Well, you got to take this way. Why? Because if you go this way, you cross the train tracks, you're going to see strip clubs. And here I am, the 7-year-old, being like, we're crossing the train tracks.
Holy shit. All right.
Because, well, I mean, no, and here's the thing, too, is
because once you see one pair of boobs, you pretty much got to see them all.
Exactly. I mean, I forget who the comedian was. It's like you see one woman naked, you want to see the rest of them.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, and once again, this...
I don't remember his name either, but that's totally where I got that from.
So there you go. But, I mean, in this, well, that kind of ties into all the other characters in this movie, sans Angela and her cousin. I forget his name off the top of my head.
Ricky.
Ricky, that was it. Because it really was just one gigantic emotional pit between the bullying, between, the horniness, between, it really was this one gigantic cauldron, which I think fueled to the feeling of discomfort.
Yeah. Okay. That is kind of one thing that I thought was interesting, was that these are, they're like 14 to 16-year-old kids, and they want to be so adult, like, jumping into an adult world with the language that they use and how they interact with each other, and the fact that some of them are actually trying to get laid
with a lot of older people.
with older people.
I mean, we're not just talking like the titular freshman in high school trying to score with the senior in high school. No, these are people like
Right.
20 plus years. I mean,
This is like the 18-year-old and the 50-year-old.
it's
You know what? Let's not.
It's like a groupie at a Rolling Stones concert.
Yeah, kind of.
Mick Jagger pops out of nowhere. Ugh.
You know what?
Yeah, let's just go on and gloss over that.
We're gonna gloss over it.
But I think that leads into just the feeling of, once again, feeling different, and you automatically side with Angela and Ricky because of this. But at the same time, you're like, could it be one of them, or one of them going to be the anti-hero? What's going on? Is it somebody else, like this silent Avenger?
It could even be a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a character that we haven't even been introduced to. Mm-hmm. It could have been the really weird fucking aunt at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, I for a few minutes, until I remembered the overall plot of this movie, which once again we'll get into at the end of this review, I really and honestly did feel like it could be her just waiting in the wings like Batman.
Yeah, going back to like a little bit of the Friday the 13th twist. If you haven't seen Friday the 13th, I'm not going to spoil it because it's a pretty darn good one.
Yeah, it really is. And let's face it, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, it should at least be on your bucket list.
It really should be, because most people are only familiar with the sequels, which I didn't enjoy those until it started to get really good and terrible.
Mm-hmm. Like really schlocky.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
But once again, I mean, with a movie of this caliber, it relied entirely on the emotions, and it relied entirely on the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can really talk about. I know I talk a lot about cinematography and camera angles. This really...
There's nothing masterful going on here. No. It's not Hitchcock.
Exactly. It's not a Dario Argento movie. It's not any of those. I mean, there really were only two big things to focus on in this particular review, and that, as we discussed, was the atmosphere and the character interaction with each other. That's what made this movie so good. Even though a lot of it was quite laughable, as you said, it was a very the blooming days of 80s movies.
Oh yeah, it did not age well in the sense of like maybe stylization. Mm-hmm. But I would say in terms of, let's see, some of the special effects that they use hold up extremely well. Like they're very uncomfortable to look at.
The boiling water scene.
Yeah, and then the drowning part.
Yeah, that was difficult for me to watch.
Yeah, it was disgusting, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of parts of this movie that are actually very uncomfortable to sit through. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily all rooted in it's not gory, but it's gross.
Yeah.
But there are really good effects. So I would say if you're not used to looking at that kind of thing, prepare yourself.
Yeah, you really...
Because some of it is hard to look at.
It really was. I mean, I will be honest. I mean, particularly now as an adult watching it with you, there were a couple of times I literally just kind of like, oh, look, I need to drink some of this water while this particular scene is going on.
Yeah, look away, look away.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if not prepare yourself, I mean, just, steady yourself. I mean, or watch an actual other 80s slasher movie just to kind of get a base going.
Yeah, kind of.
Like taking a Pepto-Bismol before eating spicy food.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why it works so well, and we did not talk about this in the previous take, is that it relies on practical effects.
Mm-hmm. That is... that kind of harkens back to us talking about how it was a very stripped down concept. But
yes.
Yeah, the fact that you bring up basic effects really does a good job.
Yep. The blood's not CGI. The burn wasn't CGI. Mm-hmm. There's a really great moment with an arrow that I'm still trying to figure out how they pulled that off. I
love that arrow scene.
Yes, because I was just like, how Is he okay? I was like, he survived that shot, right?
A disclaimer gets pulled up. No humans were harmed during the making of this.
Exactly.
It all of a sudden turns back into cannibal holocaust.
And it was done without using any CGI or drawn graphic effects whatsoever. And I'm just like, you gotta respect that. You really gotta respect that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even that one scene in Full Metal Jacket with the toilet scene. I mean, that was still, you could still tell that was pretty embellished.
Yeah, that's another gross scene.
Yeah, but we can quote that till the cows come home, or in this case, till the corpses come home.
A jelly donut.
What is this Mickey Mouse bullshit?
Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, okay. The review is going to turn into nothing but Hartman's one-liners, and while I would love that, we got other stuff to do.
That could be our April Fool's Day review.
Holy shit. Yeah, trolling the audience. But it doesn't work if they know it in advance.
They're going to forget. There's going to be a lot of other stuff coming up prior to that.
That's fair.
But anyway, yes, I mean, the special effects definitely were one of the few things that aged well from the 80s. Because even if you look at another slasher film like Friday the 13th, it still looked kind of dramatically done.
Campy. It was a little campy.
Yeah, campy. I see what you did there.
And I would definitely, I would definitely say that, especially in terms of effects used in a horror movie, it, in a lot of ways, this one kind of stands on its own. I would say maybe side by side with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ooh, yeah. No, that's a great comparison.
And I would say that I would kind of still edge out Sleepaway Camp only because there is a suspension of disbelief that goes along with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. This one, once again, it's the most believable that you can get for like an 80s slasher movie.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you're just like, I don't want to believe it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there were times when I went to camp. I mean, I'm not saying it was like the twist ending, but at the same time, there were times when you're just kind of like, am I going to wake up and find somebody like sitting on top of me about to slit my throat?
Oh, Jesus. The hell camp did? Okay, Rokkit has been to camp once, and I hated it, so it only lasted 2 weeks. It was probably the longest 2 weeks of my life so far.
Yeah, camp wasn't the greatest experience for me either. I think I went 3 years in a row. One time was amazing, then the 2 after that were just like, yeah, no. But I don't know. I mean, there's just that, for me personally, there's that feeling of solitude and it literally does, like for me personally, that being afraid of the dark.
Yeah. And you do kind of bring up an interesting point, because, and this is actually really clever when you think about it, you can see what like the other campers are experiencing and going through in this place. And that's one thing that I don't remember is what the camp is called. I want to say Camp Arawak.
Yeah.
And then you take a look at Angela and what she's going through. It's very, there's a lot of solitude there. And again, some uncomfortable feelings. And the juxtaposition of the two is really, 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 really clever when you get down to brass tacks.
Yeah, no, that's a really great way to compare it to. I mean, this back and forth, I mean, and there are stretches of calm and chaos. So you're almost kind of left, I'm not saying mood whiplash, but you're just kind of like, okay, can I have a second to catch my breath? Yeah,
and I would say like the only thing that doesn't make it mood whiplash is that, again, there's really nothing comfortable about this movie.
I mean,
there's nothing to really settle into. You're kind of always wondering, you know, what's around the bend.
I mean, it's
and
like
how terrible is it going to be?
No, I mean, it's like going from overdrive to second gear. You're not fully in neutral or in park. You're still moving at a decent pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very uncomfortable one.
Yeah, like going down a dark, twisty highway in the dead of night.
Yeah, let's not. I'd be setting up another horror movie.
Duel.
Okay.
That's the movie I was thinking of.
Oh God, I was thinking like the Human Centipede or something.
Oh, sweet Jesus in the garden. I was trying to go for one of the more relatable movies on a dark deserted highway, but you just went straight for the jugular.
I kind of did because I was going with the one that I had seen that starts out on a dark highway in the middle of the night. Because it's perfectly okay to have your car break down in a foreign country, and then go into the woods.
Funny, this doesn't look like the Hotel California.
Oh, indeed.
But yeah, so I think those are the big things that I really thought worked out very well for this movie. And you definitely brought up a few good points, and I think it's probably a good idea that we actually talk about the plot then in a nutshell, just so people understand what we keep talking about.
Sure. Yeah, because we are kind of like dancing around it, and which I apologize, but this is kind of one of those movies where if I had the twist ruined for me, I would probably never talk to that person again.
Yeah. So
we're going to talk about it as much as we can.
So we're definitely going to talk about that now, because we've talked about all the good things leading up to this point, but now y'all who don't want to see this movie, for reasons I don't quite know why, because you should go see it.
Definitely see it.
I mean, you can find it on Amazon Prime. You can find it. You can find copies of it places. I'm sure you could find a cracked copy on YouTube.
Yeah, probably.
There's a myriad of ways to acquire a free copy of this movie if you don't want to shell out a few bucks. So it really
and on Prime, it's free.
Exactly. So I think it might be on Netflix as well. I could be wrong.
I think you are wrong, because I check the horror page pretty regularly.
Gotcha. So, plot in a nutshell: you're thrown into this world with Ricky and Angela without really much preamble.
No, the only preamble that you get is that I mentioned the family in the beginning, and then we get down to one child.
Mm-hmm. But I mean,
through
in the beginning, it's
an unfortunate accident.
Exactly. I mean, even so, the implications out of the beginning, I mean, are just like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was another one that was kind of it was tough to watch.
Mm-hmm. I mean, first 5 minutes, and you already have this happening, thinking, oh, this just set the bar.
It set the bar real high in terms of comfort versus discomfort.
Exactly. So,
and then we go into a really forced bad acting scene with the aunt.
That aunt, once again, as I said when we watched the movie, like, they need to cut the pills in half on that one.
Yeah, there's trying, and then there's not trying, and then there's trying way too hard.
It was like,
and there's no moment in time where I could tell you which one she was doing.
It was like,
it was just bad.
I mean, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
It was like Mary Poppins and Julia Child on ecstasy.
I think it was more like meth, but yeah. Okay.
Hillbilly heroin.
Hillbilly heroin. That's oxy, actually.
Well, I do live in Florida.
I work in healthcare. I'm not a drug addict. I swear. I'm supposed to know these things.
As I say, wait, hang on a second. Is there something you want to tell me off camera, Rokkit?
No.
But anyway, so after that forced segue and very awkward segue, Angela and Ricky are sent off to the camp, and you can tell Angela definitely doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Not just because being physically traumatized, but by what we think was the accident.
Yes.
Which we will get to at the end.
And this is actually several years later. I would say Angela was 4 when, you know, her dad and brother died, and then when we go to camp, she's like 14.
Yeah.
And then the other interesting thing is that Ricky has been to this camp before, but she hasn't, and they grew up in the same house.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see what the age difference is between the two of them.
Between
Angela and Ricky.
Angela and Ricky. You know what? I don't know if that's a canon,
I
if
don't
that's
think.
a canon thing to look up.
I don't think. Yeah, because I know some of the camps that I went to were you had to be a certain age to like minimum to go there. So it was almost kind of like you must be this tall to ride this ride.
Gotcha.
So that was just my speculation. Is maybe he was 16 and she just turned 14, and that was kind of like, okay, well now you can go.
Now you can go, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can go play with the big kids.
Yay, out of the sandbox.
Yeah.
But,
Interesting thing is that you really do get the feeling that she never wanted to go. And she doesn't want to be in this environment.
yeah, I mean, she really was, for all intents and purposes, like Dante from Clerks. Like, I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Be here today, exactly. And then you kind of don't blame her when, like, right out the gate, the head, if you want to call him a cook or a chef, is up to you. But the guy that runs the grease pit, that is their cafeteria, makes an advance on her.
Yeah, and this was in like the first 20 minutes that this happened. This was no gradual segue of like the sisters from Shawshank Redemption. This really was, you were thrown face first into this.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I watching right now? And then I'm just like, no, dude, no. And thankfully, she's rescued by her cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And then cue death scene.
Exactly. And the whole time, the head counselor's trying to sweep this under the rug because, you know, go capitalism.
And, you know, so sued. So very sued.
Exactly. I mean, this was a straight-up lawsuit waiting to happen, as you said earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting thing was that the pot of boiling water that falls on him and gives him third-degree burns is fucking huge.
Oh, it's massive. I mean, it's about the same size as, like, the pot I'm going to be using when I make my own beer. Although, that's probably not as flavorful. Hey-yo.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, the fly strips that were hanging above that thing will probably add some flavor.
That's some good shit right there.
And yeah, this place looked gross. And I'm just like, people pay to come here and to trust you to feed their kids, not fuck them. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, it's disgusting. You have no qualms whatsoever about what happens to this guy because he's a piece of shit.
Most of the characters in this movie were pieces of shit.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I'm not going to lie, there is a split. I'm just like, is this really all that bad, though? Is it?
I mean, the bullying is what got me the most.
Yeah, the bullying was uncomfortable.
I mean, as somebody that was bullied all throughout high school and even parts of college, I mean, I definitely was like, I felt like the killer was kind of more like the anti-hero, like the Richard Riddick of this series.
Okay, that's fair.
Although not played by Vin Diesel, thank God.
Let's see. Did I also get bullied? I did. And interestingly, I went to 7 different high schools. So it was kind of one of those things where I was kind of like, I didn't really want to fit in, but I didn't want to stand out either. So I just floated and observed people. And when you go to 7 different high schools, you kind of learn that, you know, people are awful no matter where you go.
Sometimes it takes to be a ghost.
Yeah, sometimes it does. And that was kind of like my big thing was that I'm just going to like fade into the background and not really exist in this place. And I hung out with my teachers mostly.
Yeah.
Because I had nothing better to do.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, my only, before I met Harkov, because he went to a different high school, was, you know, pretty much my only real friend was Catfish. And he was as much of a ghost as I was, so, I mean, we could just ghost together.
Yeah.
But,
nah.
But the violence against the chef, you know, the head short eye, I guess we could say, just
that was earned.
Well, there were, I mean, I'm not saying that they were all earned, because once again, I felt for Angela, and ergo, I felt kind of more for the masked avenger of, you know, who's doing this. I mean, even though it was completely uncalled for and unorthodox. Oh
yeah, I talk about like the extremes and, you know, maybe wanting to learn better coping skills.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, kids don't really have the best grasp on anger management as at that age bracket with hormones running wild. I mean, I was a walking train wreck back in high school. Not much has changed, but I mean, this back in high school was a little bit different.
Yeah, no, same. I guess what do we? Oh, so not only is Angela's cousin Ricky like that kid right there has some fire to him. It was respectable.
Mm-hmm.
Like how he would kind of jump to her rescue and cuss out everybody and he called little kids fucks. It was
that was brilliant. I almost spit my drink out when I heard that for the first time. I'm like, oh my god.
Because see, that's one thing is that I don't know if there was like an age limit because these kids were like 7 years old. They were young.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that is a pickle.
That was there. I to be honest, I think that for whatever reason, the aunt didn't want to send Angela to camp, and that might have something to do with what we explore towards the end.
The twist,
right? So there's also kind of like a little
twist until like
we're going to keep calling it the twist, basically. Let's see. There's a really sweet kind of like a romantic tryst that starts to develop between Angela and this boy named Paul, who is also friends with Ricky, and it's cute.
At some point,
until he kind of wants to like maybe go a little bit further than I'm considering 2 14-year-old kids should go.
Yeah, I mean, to me personally, in the beginning, it almost felt like cruel intentions, like we're doing this just to kind of see if we can score. But
fair. But he kind of didn't really have a reason to. Oh, bless the stream.
Say again?
I was saying, okay, it's being blessed, which means that there's a train coming.
Oh, God.
Fudge. That's going to suck.
Oh, well, it happens.
It happens.
Well, we were talking about train wrecks earlier, so if
we were talking about train wrecks.
But I mean,
I would say, like, why don't you go first?
Sorry, this is part for the course. Whenever Rokkit and I are talking about anything, is we always have a tendency to overlap each other.
That's true.
I mean, yeah, it genuinely formed into a combination of actual emotional romance with a little bit of being young, dumb, and full of cum.
Yes, definitely. But that does kind of sort of like fit into this whole very uncomfortable world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me mute my mic.
All right, while she does that and the train goes by, I'll talk a little bit about other things in the plot. I mean, you have this romance, quote-unquote, with Angela and the other kid, but at the same time, you still kind of feel like, is this going to turn into another incident where something goes awry and then he gets killed later on? I mean, which harkens back into the atmosphere sense of things, because as Rokkit did say, there is this, there's this pattern, but at the same time, you're trying to kind of just trace the lines to see where it's coming from. So, and of course, Angela's still bait for bullying from her campmates or the counselor. I mean, counselor bitch. I mean, you really just wanted to see her get destroyed.
Are we talking about Meg?
Meg, yeah. The one who's trying to hook up with Aqualung.
Oh, yeah, God. Yeah, I think we, like, brushed on that a little bit.
Yeah. Ugh, gross.
It's disgusting.
It really is. But, I mean...
And then it does, like, kind of lead towards a kind of funny moment. It's fucked up, but it's funny.
It's another train wreck. Like, you don't want to laugh at it, but you do kind of involuntarily.
But you do.
You're just kind of like, oh, there we go. There it is, the kicker.
And we're going to hell.
Okay, Granny.
Yeah, absolutely. You can refer to a Granny joke without calling me Granny,
Well, I wasn't... Okay, wow, that was a slip.
Yes, it was.
Okay, well, between your granny joke and my hanging around joke, I mean, once again, we could share an apartment in hell.
Indeed, the hanging around was pretty priceless. I got a laugh out of that, and Star had a reaction to it. So
I would have loved to see, like, be a fly on that wall to see Star's reaction for that.
Because she told you the exact same thing she told me. You're going to hell for that. Good times.
Good times. But anyway, so the killings continue amidst all these little other subplots leading up to, I guess we could talk about the ultimate twist at the end with Angela.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna, give it all away up front, ha ha ha.
Oh, wow.
Might as well not spoil the rest of the movie.
I'm applauding for that one.
And it's kind of funny because the joke that I just made really does tie into the twist.
So what's this about us going to hell again?
It will be roommates. It's all good.
It's written in stone at this point.
Basically.
But yeah, I mean, the ultimate twist is when Angela's little boyfriend / summer fling, after several failed attempts to further progress along.
He means physically.
Well, I mean, I wasn't exactly saying I was going to show up with like a bottle of wine and a blanket.
I mean, like we're talking about them getting down to skinnies, not like buying an apartment.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like, oh, we should go ahead and start looking at doilies for a tabletop. No, homeboy wants to take her. Homeboy wants to take her to the boneyard, if you know what I mean.
Indeed. Which again, these kids are like 14 to 16, so yeah. I have an opinion, but I'm keeping it to myself.
I was more interested in playing video games at that time.
Yeah. Again, it really does kind of keep on to the atmosphere that is oh so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. But then, not to make a pun at this is like when the raw emotion to the ultimate twist is really stripped down.
That's a decent point, especially since during one of his advances, she has kind of like a flashback.
Exactly.
/ dream.
Yeah, like a flash segue, which then brings to the ultimate twist at the very end when we find out that Angela is a guy.
See, you're doing it too. Angela's the killer. Hello.
Yes.
But yes, Angela is a boy. Okay, I said the same thing when we watched this, because the people that like find her, that he's like, my God, she's a boy. And I'm like, not my God, she killed like 10 people.
Well, I mean, I think that's the ultimate shocker, though. It's the first impressions. It's the ultimate. I mean, because as first impressions are probably a big thing when it comes to horror movies in general. So, the first thing about seeing Angela with a penis.
It is kind of the first thing that you register, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and then maybe 1 or 2 seconds later, like, well, she did just recreate a scene at a babysitter bloodbath.
All right, I guess that's going on the list.
Yeah, well, it's a video game.
You did say that.
It's a free game.
Oh, cool. Maybe it'll go on my list.
Sweet. After you play Amnesia.
After I play Amnesia.
But, yeah, but I mean, that is essentially, and that I think is what really drives the nail on the head, is because you have the meeting of two big twists at the end. It's not Ricky that is the killer, or maybe even the aunt as the killer. It is Angela as the killer, but this is simultaneously transposed with the fact that
she has a
dong.
Yes.
Yeah, that she's living an Aerosmith song.
Yeah, and it's not a hermaphrodite.
No.
It's not in the sense of that. Her aunt raised her as a girl.
Yeah.
Because she wanted a girl.
It's not like she has gender dysmorphia or anything like that. It's just that her aunt, I think, this ties into her aunt's behavior at the beginning.
Yes. So I think like we did talk about this in the previous take, but not this one, is that this twist is set up really, really well.
It's
Because
flawless.
there are some moments where you're just like, where are they going with this? And then there are others that will sneak right by you until you get to that point. And then you're like, holy shit.
Definitely.
So it's not one of those things that comes out of nowhere as much as it is, it hits you so hard because you're not looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, how the hell did I miss that?
Yes.
Like, the ball was on the tee in certain scenarios.
Yes. I mean, it could be like due to the fact that Angela actually is played by a female actress.
Yeah.
So there is that. But let's see. I did tell you like the thing about like how they pulled off that effect at the end of the movie.
Yeah, you told me, but let's go ahead and tell our viewers.
Okay. So basically what happened was that they made like an Angela prosthetic mask, got an 18-year-old dude incredibly drunk, and got him to do this scene. So it's actually a guy wearing a very well-made mask.
Yeah, that was a perfectly engineered mask. And not a lot of horror movies can do that anymore, because 9 times out of 10 now, if it's a horror flick, it's a CGI spooge all over the place.
Yeah. Which, you know, it no longer fools the eye as well as it used to. I can even spot CGI blood. That's how long I've been watching horror movies.
That's why you make a good co-host.
Oh, I thank you.
But, I mean, and here's the big thing, too, about the end of this movie. When the big twist is revealed, it's just wonk, cut off. Like
that's the end.
It's no falling action. I mean, you are led up to this climax, and then boom, end scene, credits, gone.
You can't be mad at it. You really can't.
You can't, because there's no way that it can be spoiled. Well, in that one, the sequels, that's a different concept all its own.
Yeah, we should definitely get into those.
Yeah.
So there are like the 2 sequels that follow, which are Unhappy Campers and Teenage Wasteland, are technically non-canon sequels, which is why it'll say based on characters created by Robert Heinlein, who is the guy that masterfully directed this.
Yeah, once again, amazingly done.
And then you have the actual canon sequel, which, well, we're going to have to get to that piece of shit.
Yeah, that's a review for a whole different time.
Indeed. I would like to talk about all of them because they're very fun.
Yeah, they're fun and they're campy in their own way.
Yes, especially the Unhappy Campers and Teenage Wastelander.
Yeah, no, we definitely do need to talk about those later on.
Oh yeah, and then there's the actual canon sequel, which
God,
what in the hell, man? God,
that movie, oh Jesus, yeah, that movie was direct to shitty for a reason.
It really was, and that's what's funny is it's just not as fun.
Yeah, you don't get the same romp as you do in the previous. Well, you don't get the same, like, at least 2 and 3 were, I guess if we're going to do comparisons, like Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. I mean, you know it's going to be awful, but you still can't, you still have to you still laugh at it because that is that over the top. And as I've said before in my Kirk Cameron review, is that I think Kirk Cameron is so self-aware, they just gave him a budget and he just said, you know what, I don't care.
I got you.
I'll throw in 10 minutes of religious exposition, dumping the rest of it is just going to be just, whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to do what I want with this. And that's definitely, you know, the palette that you get from the 2 non-canon sequels.
I mean, it was, as you said, loosely, quote-unquote, based upon the first one and certain interactions and characters from it, but at the same time, you could watch 3, 2, and 1 without any spoilers, or a bare minimum spoilers, and you won't be scratching your head going, what is this all about?
I would say if you didn't know that those 2 were sequels to the first Sleepaway Camp, you would walk away not missing a thing if you saw those first.
Yes, I mean, definitely if you want to go see those out of sequence you're not going to lose, you're not going to lose anything off of it. But always, I mean, in fact, in some cases, it might be a little bit arguably better to see 2 and 3 and then 1, because you're leading up to that baseline as opposed to having the baseline that is Sleepaway Camp 1 and these other 2 just being like, oh my lord.
Okay, that is a very fair point. If you're expecting to get the same kind of horror experience from the sequels, I would say you should wear a different hat, because they're not really horror movies.
They're horror comedy movies, kind of like Leprechaun or Gremlins 2.
Right.
It's more like you're watching Troll 2 as opposed to watching like Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1.
Oh, I have to go. But I will be back if you want to wrap it up.
Yeah, so I'll close it out right now.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Well, thank you so much, Rokkit, for tuning in for this one. If you guys like Rokkit's information and what she has to offer, she does have a YouTube page and a Twitter page. I will put links to those in the description below. Definitely go check her out. The Scream Queen herself. She does a fantastic job with horror stuff. And also, I had a blast working with her. Definitely want to take her onto future episodes of Sonic Boogie Reviews. And of course,
absolutely,
my opinion doesn't matter. Only y'all's does. So let me know what you think in the comments below. So with that being said, before I call it a review, if you like the Sonic Boogie project and you want to check in more, I do have a Twitter page as well as a public Discord channel, and links to both of those are in the description below the link to Rokkit's information, as well as a link to my Twitch page. And if you have some money you just want to get rid of without throwing off a bridge, my Patreon account. So otherwise, with that being said, y'all have a fantastic day. I'll catch you on the flip side, alright? Peace.